Hi, guys. Okay, I had the biggest thing just like end up in my inbox this afternoon. My mind is blown, 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 blown. So I have some news because my goodness, this just happened. I was on Instagram earlier today and I noticed that I had a DM and it was from this girl named Lydia. And the message said that her name was Lydia Grace and she was sisters with Olivia Plath from Welcome to Plathville. And she told me that she has watched my channel for quite some time. She really enjoys my coverage related to fundamentalism and people leaving that world. And she wanted to let me know that she wants to share her story of breaking free from her family. And I was like, okay. Now, obviously, I was sitting there going, this is interesting, right? This is interesting. And I was like, well, I definitely cover the show and I would be more than happy to speak with you and allow you the space to share your story. Because obviously, anyone that leaves that world, they need to have a place or a channel or wherever they have, whatever platform, to tell their story about leaving and what they experienced and everything. My concern was that, yes, it's 100,000% Olivia's sister. Like you actually go to the profile and there's photos of her with her mom, with Olivia. It's 1,000,000%, 1,000% her sister. It's her younger sister. I think maybe like 2 years younger. So there's like photos of her with Olivia. There's photos of her with her mom and dad. There's photos of her with all of their siblings. And they are the Megs. So Olivia's maiden name is Olivia Meggs. They were actually in a documentary called Quiverful. And in the Quiverful documentary, Olivia's family was the Meggs family. And so you met the Meggs in this documentary. Olivia actually talked to me about that last year. So anyways, I recognized the sister and I was like, okay, this is interesting. But obviously, Olivia is like, I interviewed her and I talked to her on the phone a couple times, and she is, she's got this sort of like love-hate relationship with the coverage that the media does on the show. And she has definitely like not been a humongous fan of mine in the recent months because of just critical coverage or questionable like things that she does. And I'll like do a video and I'll say, what is this? That kind of thing. So I just said to her sister, and I was like, well, I know your sister doesn't really she's not super fond of my coverage. So that had me confused. I was like, well, why is your sister reaching out to me? Because Olivia is not a huge fan anymore because of everything. But so I said to her, I go, okay, well, Olivia's not a huge fan of me. And she goes, oh, don't worry, Olivia has me blocked. And I was like, oh, whoa, there's some drama here. So apparently, I said, well, Olivia said on the show, and when I spoke to her, that your parents left the fundamentalist world and they're not fundamentalists anymore. And she said, that's not true. And I was like, oh, okay. So Lydia says that even though her parents, like mom and dad, might have like left that church, they're still the exact same people. They haven't like changed their mindset. They haven't changed their beliefs at all. And she said that it's not true that they're not fundies anymore. So I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then she said that she was finally able to break away from the family, but she hasn't seen Olivia since she got married to Ethan. So she says the last time that she saw Olivia was at their wedding, and she said that Olivia actually told her that they aren't family anymore. That's what she said. She said, Olivia said to me, we're not family. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was talking about how like she and Mariah got along really well, but then Olivia made Mariah block her because she said that Olivia told Mariah that she's a bad influence. So I'm like, oh my goodness, this is wild. So, so I'm like, okay, so they're apparently, her claim is that, again, this is Lydia's claim, is that Olivia is still very much in the fundy world, that she had rebelled at one point and then sort of like came back. And she said now she's sort of getting back into that fundamentalist belief system, even though she's left it, even though she claims she has left it. So there's still some parts of it that she just hasn't, Lydia claims she hasn't left the mindset of. So again, these are all Lydia's things, but I'm going to interview her. And she wants to do a video interview where we'll talk about all of this. So I was like, well, I want to bring this to the channel and to see like what people think of this, because it's always interesting between what you see on TV and what is real. Obviously, when there's a family estrangement, there are always two sides. So you don't want to immediately be like, oh, Olivia is the bad one and Lydia is the good one, right? There's always going to be two positions where Lydia feels one way and Olivia feels the other way. But what I'm most excited about is if she has a space where she feels like she can share leaving and departing that world, and she feels like she's at a better place, emotionally, mentally, all of that, then obviously like offer her that space here to talk about it. So, and I think that there are a lot of people that are kind of in those circles that watch this channel specifically, that, you know, if they have more stories like that of people like talking about their experiences leaving, maybe that will help others, like motivate other people to potentially want to leave. You know what I mean? Like, you can't leave a belief system like right away. You can't just, it takes time, it takes energy, they have to deprogram, they have to like realize that everything that they've learned is like not even real, right? They have to go through this whole deconstruction of everything my parents taught me isn't actually valid when you leave a very extreme belief system like that. So I find it interesting because I felt like, I don't know Olivia's belief system at all. Obviously, they drink alcohol and I don't know, she has a job, so she's not ascribed to all of it. She's an independent, fairly independent woman, so she can't ascribe to all of that. You know what I mean? Like, if she were a true fundamentalist, she wouldn't be working. She'd be staying at home. She'd be popping out babies. So there might be parts of her that are still ingrained, still enmeshed in that. And it takes a long time for people to really disconnect. Disconnect from that mindset. But I feel like if Lydia can come here, this is kind of a conversation that I have wanted to have with other people that have left about what it is, what it's like to finally leave, what that means from a familial standpoint. Because according to Lydia, her entire family has basically cut her out. No relationship. Lydia claims that Olivia told her that she's not family to her, that she's not a good influence to people, that she's not a good person, and who knows. Yeah, it would have to be, Kit Kat says, it must be painful to leave your family behind so you can escape the toxic beliefs. It's traumatic, even though leaving can be the best thing. Right. So from Lydia's perspective, her parents may have left the church, but they haven't left the mindset. And actually, that doesn't really surprise me if that's true. Because if you think of it this way, like a lot of these families don't even really go to a church. They don't have one specific church that they go to because a lot of the churches that are around them aren't extreme enough for them. So they do a lot of like home Bible study or home churches. So just because they've left a church that's maybe legalistic, that doesn't mean necessarily that after 15, 20, 30 years, that they would suddenly not be legalistic. It would take a lot to sort of break the mold and break your mindset. Maybe they're taking steps, excuse me. Maybe they're taking steps to break that mindset, but they maybe are just not there. Yeah, there's a lot of, it's a world, man. It's a world. You have to reprogram your mind. You have to like strip down the belief system that, like one of the things that really sticks with me in terms of how a lot of these children are raised is, obedience, like mindless obedience without question. So you are to obey your parents regardless of what it is. If they say jump, you say how high. Giving the parents a lot of power in that if you have a good parent, they will guide you to the right things. If you have a bad parent, they might abuse that level of obedience, if that makes sense. So they might not, and not to say everyone that's in this world is bad, right? Like there's always bad actors in every group. Lydia Grace is Olivia's sister. So not every group has all bad people. There's always good people in every group. There's always the bad actors. There's always the ones that will use the rules in their favor. And there's always the ones that will not, right? They'll just be a good person. So the problem is that the men in these worlds have unlimited power, and it's really unchecked. Like nobody's there to check them. Nobody's there to tell them no. So I don't know. I'm interested because the way that Olivia described it is that her parents had left and they were converted out of it and they were done with it. It does take time to reprogram 1,000,000,000%. Because you have to like not only like realize that it is okay to say no. It is okay to say you don't have to obey without thinking about it. Like blind obedience is so dangerous. Blind obedience is like what cult leaders demand. Blind obedience is going against every human nature belief that something is wrong and then the person telling you that it's right and you do it anything, the things that these organizations like the IBLP and fundamentalist quiverful movements, they are not Christianity. Correct. Again, this is not Christianity that we're talking about. We are talking about extremists. So this is not to, certainly not to condone or to make anyone that's like a Christian feel bad. 1,000,000%. Like never. Because what they are doing in these groups is not the same. So the blind obedience part is so interesting to me. And then the not ever, sorry. And then the other interesting thing is not to actually, blind obedience is the one part, and to constantly do everything for anyone but yourself. So you are to serve everyone else at the expense of yourself, and you yourself are not supposed to have any autonomy. So you are not supposed to be like, anything that you want or need is somehow bad. So you're not supposed to want or need anything, and you're always supposed to be thinking about everyone else. So it makes you almost feel like you don't have any self-autonomy because you're always thinking about everyone else. So I am interested about this. I have not yet watched the second episode of Welcome to Plathville. I'll probably watch that in the morning. I was doing videos today about my son for World Prematurity Day, which was to a portion of the AdSense for those videos is going to be donated to the March of Dimes. And the videos have actually linked to the March of Dimes if you want to donate directly to them. The March of Dimes has an initiative that they have been working on for many years to help to bring better outcomes to children that are premature, and to currently one of the initiatives that they're doing is working on the systemic racism that exists within the healthcare system, because a high percentage of premature babies are born to women of color. And because of the systemic racism that exists within the healthcare industry, a lot of these women will not necessarily get the help that they need. And so they are trying to help improve outcomes for women of color and their babies by providing, better prenatal care and making sure the babies have the proper postnatal, like NICU care. So it's good to see these kinds of directives, because these are we want to have all babies survive. Obviously, that doesn't always happen, but if you can help people that are doing things to help people, I'm all for it. So the videos I did today were for a portion of AdSense going to March of Dimes, and a link to the March of Dimes if you want to donate. There's also plenty of hospitals that you can donate to if that is what moves you. I know there are lots of ways that you can get connected if you want to help NICUs. Lots of NICUs are always looking for people to knit hats for the babies, make blankets for the babies, donate clothing for the babies. There's also ways that you can donate your time to I know right now it's weird because COVID has a lot of the Ronald McDonald House kitchens closed down. So when we were just in the hospital in June, we couldn't use the Ronald McDonald House, but there's still a lot of ways that you can help families that are in the NICU right now. Either through, there's also organizations that you can send care packages to hospitals for these families. With the Ronald McDonald houses not being open right now, especially the kitchens, it's such a huge issue for these families. You have no idea how expensive it is to eat at a hospital and how hard it is to get healthy food. So there's lots of local organizations that do care packages or offer food packages for families that are with children in the NICU. So, or you can also just donate directly to your local children's hospital. That's another great way, because they are the ones that are taking care of these babies, and most of these hospitals are nonprofit. So generally the children's hospitals or whatever facility you have, you can donate there if you feel like you can. If you can't, no worries. It's just a way to give back if you have it. I understand a lot of people are dealing with COVID right now, and a lot of people are unemployed. And so if you don't have the money, no big deal. I just wanted to help bring some light to that, because there's a lot of families right now that are going through it. And I can't imagine going through something like that during this time, especially with COVID. So that's what we've got. We are going to be done for the night, but just wait I'm trying to coordinate the time for the interview with Lydia. Thank you, Aggie. And to all the families out there that are dealing with a child or an infant that it's in the hospital right now, my heart's with you. It's really hard right now. I can't, honestly, if you're a praying kind, say a prayer for them. If not, send them good thoughts. It's a really challenging time, and especially with everything, with the numbers going up, the NICUs and everything is just, the hospitals are getting more and more full. For now, I think we're talking about the Plaths. So Olivia Plath's sister, Lydia Grace, Megs, reached out to me and wants to share her story about leaving fundamentalism. So that's what I have for now. I hope you guys will enjoy the interview. I'm hoping to interview her tomorrow or Friday. So if there's anything that you want me to ask her, let me know in the comments below. And whoever just became a member, thank you, Amelia V, for becoming a member. I really appreciate it. And I'm so grateful for all of your guys' support this past few weeks. Yeah, that's what we have. Good night, guys.